Good morning, world. It's one of those early mornings where I've managed to drag myself out of bed earlier than I would have liked so that I can get out into nature and try and find some images. I'm going for a walk along, there's a wee spot not too far from where I live called Outram Glen. And there's a river there and a bit of a walk that goes alongside the river. So I thought I would just get up early, go for a walk, and if any images transpire, then you'll see this footage as I'll do a wee intro to the video. I am keeping things pretty minimal today, so I've come out, I've got a little Peak Design tripod, should I happen to want a tripod, just because I might be in some darkish areas, and I've got my Nikon Z6 III and my Tamron 28-75 lens, just the one lens. Camera on a strap, little backpack for bits and pieces like some water and the bag for this little video camera that I'm recording myself on. And yeah, just gonna kind of keep it simple. Anyway, I'm gonna start to walk now. I'm the first person through this morning, so I'm taking a lot of spider webs to the head. One of those joys of walking through the woods in the morning. I don't know that it'll look like too much, but I just took a shot. There's a wee rope over, kind of going up the cliff over there, which I can only imagine people use to kind of get up and then jump into the water. Did a little bit of playing around with that in terms of the reflection that was happening. I think by the time I crafted my best shot, I think the wind was coming up, and I think I've got too many ripples, and I don't think it'll be quite right, but we'll see what we get. I also spent just a little bit of time with that little clump of trees up there and the reflections that are happening with those. So I reckon this will be my last shot of the day. I took a wander down the side of the river a little bit, climbed along some rocks, and found this nice little spot where I got a little bit of foreground interest. So I'll be quite curious to see how this goes. Obviously the light's a bit flat here, and I'm needing to shoot in such a way that I'm not including the sky because of the incredible contrast between the two. But hey, you know what? It might not be that bad, and it's something to think about. I need to figure out, given this bit of a valley that I'm in, I'm guessing evening might get some light, but I'll need to go back and double check on that. Anyway, I think this will be it from the field, and I'll see you back on the computer and see what I got. Right, so here I am back at the computer, and I've kind of gone through and chosen out a few images that I've put into a wee selects folder, and then I've kind of had a little crack with some of them. You can see the ones in the thumbnails here that have the little white border on, those being the ones that I've kind of had a bit of a play with. So I've got this one that you're seeing here. Just liked the rope, I liked the reflection, it was all quite calm. This was sort of my best of the bunch of that feeling. This one didn't quite have the reach for this, but you know, we made it work in the end. This is still, even with the crop, and this pretty good crop on there, it's still 3000 by 3000, I think, so that's about a 10 by 10 inch print if I were to do that. That's without any kind of up-resing. So it's actually not that bad, but I do wish I had just a touch more reach for that one. This one here, I think this is the one that I'm going to do processing of today. Quite like this, just the overall feel of it. This one here, I quite like this one a bit too. There's a few little pieces there that I will probably remove. I don't want to remove too much, but this right here is particularly distracting to me, so I'll probably take that out. And then this one was not on that site, but it was when I was driving back home again and passing by this mountain that I normally see from a different direction. And I better air quote that mountain business. It's called Saddle Hill, and you can really see the saddle in this direction. But like I said, in this video, I want to spend a little bit of time with this image right here. So let's go ahead and take a look at a bit of an edit for this one. So I'll just jump over here. I think this is a virtual copy, which is
reset, I believe, but I'll just double check that. Oh no, there we go. There's a reset. It probably had the film profile on it. And just make sure that it's got optical corrections only picked there. There we go. There's the optical corrections. I absolutely love the Tamron 28-75. It's on my camera a lot of the time, but you can see here that there is a bit of distortion correction going on there. But that said, you know, it's nice and sharp. It hasn't really bothered a whole lot, shall we say. So that's all good. Let me go ahead and bring this down, and let's start off this edit. So I'm going to start off with my color rendering, like I've often said in recent videos, starting here because it does impact tonality as well as color depending on which rendering you pick. Now I'm going to dive into the digital film space, and I'm going to dive into the Fuji Pro Neg High. I just particularly like the way the greens go with this particular one, but you can see here that it's darkened it quite a bit. If I turn that off, it really has impacted the tonality quite a bit. Turning next to my white balance, I want to just warm this up just a smidge, not too much. I'll probably leave the tint where it is. It's on plus 31 there, but I'll just give this just a smidge more warmth. Where are we at? Yeah, maybe about there. If you're looking and wondering why my mouse isn't, you know, grabbing hold of this and dragging or anything like that, I'm just right-clicking on the side of the slider that I'd like to move in. I can't guarantee. Something tells me there's a wee niggle in the back of my mind to say that this doesn't work on Macs, but it does work on Windows PCs, where I can go by an increment. In this case, it goes up by 100 each time I right-click. And if I come to this side and right-click, it goes back down by 100. So that's a really handy trick, especially if you're like me and you like to do things in kind of even intervals whenever you can. So I think next I'm going to hop on over to the light tab and just have a look at how things are going here. I'm going to put on smart lighting and see what that does. Probably a pretty good thing to do, I would say. And I might even, just kind of examining there, 50 to there, I might just even bring the exposure up just a smidge more, and we'll see where we go from there. Third of a stop. That might be too much. Yes, we'll stick with that. I think that's good enough for now. I think I'm going to just change directions now and do my crop right away, because I know I want to change how this is cropped. Selecting the tool, coming down here, I'm going to choose a 5x4 and just maybe give that a little shift down, but not too much. I like the little bit of green reflection that's going on there, and I like the reflection coming out here, and just cutting away a little bit of the top of those trees that was not really helping much. I think that's probably good. Maybe might come in just a smidge and down just a smidge. There we go. We'll call that good. Now this was a pretty flat day, so I'm definitely going to want to be doing some things that impact my contrast. I'm going to bump that up. For this one I might even also, let me just see. Yeah, I might even leave the micro contrast on. I don't dislike the micro contrast on this one. But as always, I might also just add a little bit of fine contrast for good measure. And you know, even as I'm looking at that, I'm feeling like it might feel a little overbaked. I'm just going to, maybe I'll grab the wee tool here and put it in here. That'll give me a really good rendering of what's going on with the sharpness and contrast, etc. And I'm just going to turn off the micro contrast. Just let my eyes adjust to that for a second, and now I'm going to just press the auto button again, turn it back on. Yeah, I think that is just a little bit too much for me, so I'm going to just bring that back down. I will just do some regular contrast and some fine contrast. I'm going to turn that off, turn that on, turn that off, turn that on. Yeah, okay, I'm happy enough like that. So I am going to leave the micro contrast off, and I'll go ahead and turn off the loop view. I think in here while I'm going, I might just raise my shadows a smidge and just see what it looks like if I bring those midtones up a smidge as well. Yeah, that's okay. It's not quite right yet, but it's just sort of an intermediate step, so I think I'll go ahead and leave that where it is. Just thinking to myself, and I don't think there's really anything else I'm going to do in the light space right now. Actually, no, I take that back. I think I'm going to, just before I go, I'm just going to impact my white point a little bit. So coming down to the tone curve, and I'm going to, just so it doesn't tweak my colors too much, I'm going to come over to the luminance channel, and I'm just going to drag that in. I might not, I don't need this to be at white. That's not remotely how it was. So I don't need to start to cap that out, but I do want to maybe just drag the highlighty sort of end up a little bit with that. Great. And I do know that parts of that are over bright, I think, at this juncture, so bear with me. Again, it is at an intermediate step, and we'll sort of tweak things as we go from here. So I think right now the thing I want to do is maybe jump over to my local adjustments, and I will just scroll up and grab, what will I grab? I will grab a control point. I'm going to put it kind of in here. This is where I want to impact. Now, the thing about this being, I want to use it more like a radial filter, and you can see right now that it's kind of, selecting bits based on, it's doing its job. It's selecting bits based on what this point is on top of. To use it more like a radial filter, I'm going to make two small moves. I'm going to tell it to not be fussy about the chroma and to not be fussy about the luma. There we go. And it is now essentially a radial filter. Make that a little touch bigger, maybe about to there. And I'm just going to go ahead and increase the exposure in that spot just a little bit. Maybe drag that down, because it's really, it's this business that I'm really interested in. That's the thing that caught my eye. And you can see as I've raised the exposure, it's kind of gotten a little bit even more washed out, a little more low contrast, or a little less contrast, however you want to say that. I'm going to try to pop on a bit of clear view and see if that will help to bring my contrast back. Maybe just drag it up a bit and see where we go. Cool, so that's definitely reintroduced some contrast there. I'm just going to come up and turn that off and on, off, and on, off, and on. Looking good. So let's just open things up in there a little bit and just draws a little bit more attention in. I'm maybe going to bring that clear view down a smidge. I might have gone just a touch over heavy-handed with it, and I might just take that up one more notch there. And just for giggles, I want to try one more thing. I don't know if I'll keep this, but I'm just going to bring my warmth up just a smidge in that space. How do I feel about that? Yeah, I think I feel pretty good about that. I think I will leave that where it is. Now, I'm actually just curious. I didn't do this on the other image, when I showed you the sort of one that I had done previously, the edit I had done previously. I did not try this, but I'm just suddenly curious about this as I'm going along, and I'm curious about, before I do anything else in the local space, if I were to throw a little vignette on there, how would that go? In fact, I think that goes quite nicely, although I might just back it off one level, turn that off, turn that on. Yes, I do indeed like that. All right, now if I pop back to the local space, just scroll up again. Curious, for anybody else, does that happen? Every time I go to the local space, it seems to always jump further down. It so often doesn't seem to. I've never noticed a pattern about why, if I'm doing something particular. So if you have experienced this and figured it out, drop it in the comments. Is there something I could be doing to make it show up here? Because I almost always seem to need to scroll. Right, anyway, control point is there. I want to do a new one. I'll just click my plus button, and I'm going to grab just a plain old gradient, I think, and I'll kind of bring it in from this angle, kind of like that, and I'll probably drag it up a bit, and I'm just going to add a bit of warmth here. Don't want to go too far. I'm just going to quickly put that off and on, because right now I can't actually see that it's doing anything. Oh yeah, it definitely is. Just a little hint of it. Yeah, cool. Awesome. Fairly subtle, but I do like it, so we'll leave that there. And I think I'm going to come and do another gradient filter. Now, if memory serves me, most of the time when you're changing between local adjustments, you have to do this plus, or you'll combine things. With gradient, I think you don't. I think it'll just do it. So let's crank that out. Yeah, that's exactly. That memory is correct. Never do know with my memory. It's a little bit hit and miss. Now I want to do a similar thing here. I'm just going to bring a little bit like that warmth is reflecting in. Maybe I'll just do that there. Just add some sort of pleasing color down there. Let me just see how that's going in terms of turning that off and on. Yep, I like that a lot too. Now up next, I'm just going to do a little smidge of dodge and burn sort of work in here. So I'm just going to, in order to do that, and there are different things you could do, I'll click the plus and I'll click on my brush. Maybe zoom in 1 to 1. Going to hold my space bar so that I can bring this down a little bit. And I'm going to put a little bit of highlight along here. So I'm just going to, first of all, impact my size. So I'm going to hold my control key and use my scroll to change the size. If I were to hold my shift key and do my scroll, I could change my feathering. And you can see here that I've already got my flow turned down quite a lot. I've got it turned down. And so I've got, a rough size here. I'm not going to be too fussy about this. I might just take that just a touch smaller. Oh no, I'll go there. And I'm just going to draw along here with its low flow. And I'm going to then raise my exposure just a little, not too much. Let me go that high. Yeah, maybe. And now that I've got that set up, I can just look to see are there other places I'd like to put a little bit of highlight. For example, maybe along this bit of the tree here. And I'm not being too fussy with the accuracy of this whole thing. Maybe get that a little bit smaller for this. You can sort of do as little or as much of this as you want to. I'm probably not going to do heaps. I might just take a second crack along here because it is on low flow. I know also that I want to make this reflection stand out a bit more, which I think it will do if I lighten it up a touch. I've got a pretty good feather on, so it's pretty forgiving. Cool. Leave that. I probably, just for argument's sake, so that you guys aren't sat there for ages watching me do this, I'll probably not continue much longer. But you can kind of get the idea there. So with that, and then if I want to do, I know this rock over here. There we go. I'll put some burning here, so I'll just go ahead and do a plus. Still got my brush selected, and I'll maybe make that a little bigger, and I'll just brush on here, and I'll just drop this a bit just to give a little extra contrast there, and then I can go through and see where else I would like to drop the exposure. Again, for argument's sake, I won't spend heaps of time doing this. Maybe just going to back out and look at some larger. So I'm currently on, maybe I should rename this. Currently on my burn, and this is my dodge. So if I look there, and I'm going to just make this a little bit bigger, give that a little shrunk in there. So it's just starting to try to add some shape in there, and just doing your best to look at where it might naturally be a little bit darker. I'm going pretty quick with this, so forgive me if I'm not like the most accurate. Nice. I come over here to my dodge space now and just see. That's already pretty bright. I maybe won't do that. Maybe put that there. Yeah, maybe. Just a touch. So you can see how I've impacted the shape of things. Just going to grab the burn again, and I'm just curious if I make this a bit bigger and just add a little strip across there. Zoom out that way. Do a quick compare. Yeah, that one's maybe a little sloppy up the top here, but anyway, that'll do. Grab the dodge again. Bring that up. I think I'll also just add a little blast there as well. I think I'm basically feeling pretty good about that. I just suddenly realized that my histogram was sitting off to the side there. People were curious how the histogram was looking. Still a bit of space there. I might just play with that white point and see what I can do there. Might just shift the touch, but we'll see. And I definitely want to, just because I've been enjoying it recently, drop the old frame on there. Make sure it's on the outside so that I'm not losing any of my image. And yes, let me just drop back to the light space and see what I think about my white point, and then maybe just see about my black point. I'm just going to turn on my warning here so I can see how much of that is going. Cool, I'm happy with that. Right, just breaking in on myself for a moment. Did that thing, you know, where I stepped away from the image for a little while, and when I came back, looking at it with fresh eyes, I had slightly different thoughts, and I felt like it was possibly just a smidge too bright and whatnot. And so I just, one little thing that I've done subsequent to my previous edit, which is to just come in here to the tone curve, still on the luminance channel, around the midpoint. I'm going to just click in, and basically what I can see is it's telling me that space 123 is currently pushed up to 132, and so I'm just going to use these to bring it down. So that's now even, it's not shifted, it's right on the middle. Just going to have a wee peek at it for a second. Lovely. So I'm going to leave that there, but that's just my one little edit, and you know, I think it's good food for thought. I almost never complete an image on a single edit where I don't come back and think, you know what? This needs this little shift. So refresh your eyes. It's good practice. Cheers. Cutting back to the other video. And there we have it. One edit. Let me do just going to press escape to make sure no kind of tool is selected. And let me do an overall before and after. Before and after. Before and after. Quite happy with that edit. That image pleases me quite a bit for just a little walk around of a day when there wasn't particularly very good light. I'm happy with that. If you're keen on seeing any of the other images from that session edited, feel free to drop it in the comments. Happy to do another one. I just don't want to make this particular video be, you know, exceptionally long. So I'm just going to stick with one for now. With that, I'll say thanks very much for watching, and I will talk again soon. Bye for now.